Hello, everybody, and welcome in. I'm just going to give it a moment to let everyone come in from the waiting room, and then we'll get started. All right. So I am so excited to introduce you to Janine. She is with Procore, who I think many know that we do partner with them throughout the years, have worked with them for many years. So we're really excited to continue this partnership. Janine Trinidad is a construction educational professional for Procore Technologies with over 23 years of facilitation experience and almost 15 years of experience in the construction industry. She is also a certified transformational coach with a focus on women-created and trauma-informed methods. Janine developed her work in performance and wellness when she experienced burnout while managing construction projects. She is passionate about transforming the construction industry to be healthier, more successful, and welcoming place to work, and believes technology and education are allies in doing so. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Janine, and she will get you guys started.
Thanks so much, Savannah. Hi, everyone. I know you might not be able to see yourselves, but I'm seeing all the names come through, and it's so exciting to just see so many folks gathered here for this session, which is titled "Rise Up: A New Approach to Your Personal Development." And as Savannah mentioned, I work for Procore Technologies, and I'm also a certified coach in women-centered methods. So this is a session that's sort of dear to my heart, so to speak. And throughout the session, I'd also love to hear a bit about you all. So feel free to start warming up the chat. I do see a few of you doing that already, and maybe even sharing who you are, where you came from too. I would always love to, get some more background on who's in the room. So I'm keeping an eye on that chat box as well. But let's get started. Any, forward-looking statements. Here is our safe harbor at Procore. And this is our agenda for today. I'm going to start off by just adding a small awareness piece of where women are at in relationship to their personal development and education. I'm hoping it's not new news, but just something to keep in mind as we then move on to the next part of our session, which is really making and introducing a mindset shift that I think will support you throughout your personal development journey. And then we're going to start to apply that to personal developments more specifically, because of course it's a mindset shift that should support you in all of your life. And then together we'll put it into practice. If you do have the capacity to drop into a deep practice with me, that's great. And if not, if you might be somewhat in a distracted environment, totally fine. You can still jot down some notes for yourself and perhaps do the practice on your own time in perhaps more solitude and privacy, etc. I promised you some resources in this session, so I'll leave you with those. And I think we'll have plenty of time to also have just an open discussion and some questions for myself at the end. So let's get started. Okay, few questions for you. I'm curious what brought you to the session. What was it about the title, perhaps, of Rising Up that interested you? If anyone wants to share in the chat, I'll keep an eye on that. And then I also want you to consider, what does personal development mean to you? It's a very broad term. So personal development might be working with your mentor, or it might already be a part of your daily practice. I'm curious to hear what that means to you. And while you're working on contributing in the chat, if maybe one or two of you want to raise your hand and just speak to these questions, we're happy to unmute yourself as well. Oh, how about Maggie O'Brien? Go ahead, Maggie, if it's working on your end. Savannah, help me out. Is Maggie's
Looks like Maggie's not working. Is it DeRay?
Yes. Can you
Go
hear me
ahead.
okay?
okay? Let's hear from DeRay.
Okay, nice. Hi guys. My name is DeRay. I am an assistant communications coordinator here at Whiting Turner Contracting Company. I work out of our headquarters in Baltimore, Maryland. And essentially what brought me to this session, of course, during Women in Construction Week, we were given a whole bunch of resources, and this was one of them. And once I saw personal development, that was just a perfect fit for me. I am very passionate about personal development. I think that it's very important to always be just self-aware about yourself, your actions, behaviors, and to turn negatives into a positive. So I am such a firm believer of just constantly growing and growing and improving. So I spend a lot of time on personal development, whether that's therapy, talking with friends, or any of that stuff. So yeah,
Oh, I love that. Thank you so
mhm,
much, DeRay.
welcome.
And Maggie, I'm so sorry that we couldn't hear you. By all means, put it in the chat and we'll be able to share that out to the group. But something that I'm also seeing in the chat that DeRay was able to articulate for us is this kind of holistic aspect to personal development, right? Yes, it's, the getting the certifications and sharpening my tools or upskilling, but then we're already as a group acknowledging that there's work-life balance. There's just showing up and having that growth mindset. So that makes my job in this session really easy because I think you've already come to the table with fertile ground, and we're going to continue to plant some seeds into that. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Um, I'm curious, how much time do you spend on personal development, you'd say? Put a number in the chat. Is it an hour a day? Is it a few hours a week? I hope I'm saying this right. Otiaka Lily is saying 2 to 3 hours per week. Awesome. Few hours a week. Excellent. Yeah, 60 to 90 minutes a week. Oh, Kristen's calling out not enough. Awesome. I love that. Okay. Well, hopefully by the end of this, you'll have, some sort of solid commitment to that, just in recognizing that this is something important for all of us in the room, right? For this kind of collective growth. But to get us started, I also wanted to share some statistics or even just a general view of how women are performing in this realm of personal development. And for the simplicity in my talk track, I'm going to use education and personal development more or less interchangeable. But as you can see through all the contributions in the chat box, that personal development means so much more, means just this overarching effort in learning and growth, etc. But when you think about formal education, look at how amazing this is. Women in the United States have made significant progress. We are earning more degrees, enrolling in colleges more so than our male counterparts, right? And we're obtaining those degrees and succeeding, right? That's huge. And I think that's just when you consider our when women were even allowed to enter into colleges, et cetera, and obtain these degrees, it's amazing to kind of see our, again, collective growth. And I felt like this was helpful to point this out because it's showing up in a lot of credible research, like this article that I show on to the right side of the slide from the Pew Research Center. So it's not just a fun idea that Google AI has, picked out of all the data. It is something that is being researched and watched and witnessed over time. But I think it's important for us to consider this as our superpower um, to set up the mindset shift that I'm about to give to you. So let's move on to that. Here is the mindset shift. Let's start with our baseline, something that perhaps all of us could relate to. And that is the limiting belief of I am not enough. Right? So how does this limiting belief of I am not enough show up? Well, it shows up in our overworking habits or our burnout, right? Where you feel like you have to do more than anyone else to maybe prove yourself that you, or prove to yourself and to prove yourself to others that you are enough. And a few other ways it might show up that might be surprising to you, because I've certainly overlooked these in myself for a long time. Um, I might overcommit to things that AI can't actually fully execute, or that I might not be fully satisfied or fully aligned with at my core. Another kind of effect of this mindset of I am not enough is just simply giving up and quitting, right? And so in our industry in construction, when we talk about attracting women and more talent to this industry, we also have to follow that up with retention strategies, right? So when I consider that that kind of circumstance or that challenge for our industry, I think of, okay, where in which are women and people kind of operating from this I am not belief of also then bowing out when, you know, when I'm maybe 50% up the mountain in this great journey. Right. So really interesting things to consider. And if you have any response to this, maybe it's just an affirmation of, oh yeah, I felt that at some point in my life, at some point in my career. Again, go ahead and acknowledge that in the chat, because I think it's for everyone in this room, it's really helpful to see that you're not alone in these feelings, right? Or in this experience. So now the mindset shift I'd like to offer you today is taking that I am not belief and transforming it into I am worthy. I am worthy, and your sense of worthiness shows up by then believing that you are enough for not only yourself, but for others, right? Prioritizing your own well-being. And just simply, again, believing that you have the time, for instance, for personal development. You have the time and the support and the financial resources to achieve your goals. So in just comparing these two kind of beliefs or mind frames, you can see how this sense of worthiness supports you in the resilience and having that resilience to combat the intrusive thoughts of I'm not enough, or to support you when challenges do arise in whatever your work or personal life situations might be. Yeah. So taking a moment to take this all in. And just like with any mindset shift, it is a process. So I do want to acknowledge that some of you might be saying to yourself, well, I generally feel worthy, so I'm good there. Excellent. The next step I would encourage you to take then is maybe acknowledging this journey in others and supporting them on this path to really honing and fostering and establishing their sense of worthiness. Or maybe if you feel, okay, I'm definitely not going to stop on this path of shifting this lack or scarcity mindset into the growth mindset of worthiness. And in that frame of mind, I say, that's exactly it. This is a process and a path that you can really undertake your whole lifetime. And that's great, and that's okay too. There's, if those thoughts kind of pull you into that lack mindset of like, oh, I'm never going to get there, it's always helpful to note that being on that path, being in the practice of flexing that muscle of your worthiness and knowing your worthiness is really it. That's the end game, is just continually building that resilience in yourself. Okay, let's take it a step further if you're good with that. Now let's apply this new mindset to specifically personal development. And we've talked about the many ways in which that might show up for you. for simplicity's sake, I'll just sort of use it in this framework of education, whether it's formal or self-directed information that you go and seek yourself. And I kind of summed it up in this phrase that I've been using for myself, looking at my personal development and my education as a form of self-care. I'd be curious to hear your off-the-cuff comments, because oftentimes self-care is, okay, I'm going to go to the beach. Maybe I'll take a book with me. That's perhaps education as self-care. But together we'll walk through and really dig into this idea, education as self-care, the personal part of personal development, perhaps. So I'll give you three, what I like to call power statements, right? I am worthy of receiving knowledge, of perhaps receiving the power of knowledge. And I am worthy of taking that time for myself to invest in yourself. Yeah. And y'all already intuiting that. I'm seeing all the comments in the chat. Deanne's already calling out. I agree that education is self-care. You are investing in yourself. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I love this. I love like the collective wisdom just like lighting up. Okay, here's another one. I am worthy of following my interests and choosing what knowledge systems will say are valuable to me. Now, I want you to sit with this one a little bit, because oftentimes when we think of education, we go back to our early memories of, being in formal education, grade school, high school, perhaps college, or a training program, what have you. And I'll say for myself, when I look back at those moments, I think of a very clear power dynamic and sense of authority with myself and my teacher. So I'm showing up in those formal education systems and structures with the sense of, well, I just have to do what the teacher tells me, right? Follow the instructions and directions, and then I'll get the recognition and I'll get the degree, etc. That is 100% valid and fair and great. But I think with the statement of I am worthy to follow my interests, just kind of reminds you that, especially in adult education, we have the power to listen to our inner wisdom and maybe try a course or a class or learn something new that doesn't quite fit the mold or isn't being directed by a person of authority, right? Something that I can maybe say for myself is something that I know will get me to achieving my goals, but maybe it's a little bit off the beaten path, or maybe it is all meant to spark curiosity in me, right? Knowing that that is itself a valuable skill, curiosity. And, again, contribute in the chat, see how that sits with you, if that might be a new one. But for me, it allows me to shift from I have to do something to I get to do something. I get to sit into this program or this classroom and soak in what makes sense for me, soak in the information that supports me and my goals. Yeah, Dere saying it truly is about perspective. Yeah, love that. And then the last one, I am worthy of building community aligned with my interests and values. Now, again, in more of that scarcity mindset, or in this I have to mindset, I would find myself approaching an educational opportunity as maybe competition with my peers or a distraction from my learning. But when I put myself at the center of my learning, then and I come from this place of worthiness, then I see the folks around me, my colleagues in that learning experience, as my peers, as my colleagues and folks that I can lean on for support. And also folks I can exchange information with and truly shift my hang-ups perhaps about networking, because now I'm engaged in a kind of natural curious sort of info sharing, right? And how many of you might even have networking on your list of personal development goals, right? That's often a common one. Yeah, I'm seeing some hands raised. Definitely. And immediately when I think of networking, I think of a happy hour or these things outside of work that gets us socializing, etc. And I don't think I would have thought about taking a course as a networking event until maybe I start to look at those educational opportunities again as this place of self-care, as a place of garnering support. That also allows me to break down again that tricky power dynamic with a teacher and have a more open communication with my teachers, trainers, etc. So in this mindset of self-worth and in this mindset of education as self-care, I find myself contributing more, participating more, just joining and being a part of the conversation, right? Knowing that I do have a perspective, a unique perspective to share, and that is valuable also to my peers. I mean, if you scroll through the chat, you see it already, right? You see how we are now supporting each other and acknowledging that we are on the same journey and almost working towards similar things, even though, and especially when we're actually caring for ourselves. So I'll sort of pause there before we really dive into our practice, but I do want to pause and check for resonance. Is there anyone in the group who does want to share out loud and for the group on mic?
Being a little shy, I think.
Yeah. Well, while you all maybe gather your thoughts, if someone does want to share, I'm just scrolling through and seeing, I think someone had mentioned picking up golfing. I love that. Again, like following your interests and letting the pieces come together naturally, versus something that's dictated from the outside. Well, DeRay, you still have your hand up. If you do want to respond, by all means.
Hi again. Sorry, yeah, I'm very much a vocal gal instead of messaging. Um, but I don't know. I think this resonated with me a lot, and I feel like some other women in the chat can also agree, but I would have never thought of education as self-care. But I'm post-grad, but even the thought of, wow, education is such a kind of a reward in a sense. And it's like, I get to have this knowledge. I get, like, I'm blessed to have these opportunities. So I don't know. It's just so interesting that you made that point. So I think that's a really good perspective change that I was also saying in the chat. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, DeRay. Anyone else have something to add? Or an insight that kind of popped up for you? Janelle is saying in the chat, it helped me reframe my guilt that the weekly hour book club during work hours is actual work. Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, keep dropping in the chat. I don't want to belabor it. And sometimes with new ideas, it does take a moment for it to just like soak in and permeate and work its way through your system. But oh, I see that Marcy's hand is up. So why don't we hear from Marcy?
I was just going to say, I don't feel guilty for doing self-care because it's so important for my mental health and my physical health and emotional health.
Yeah, love that. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you for modeling the way. And I would say that that sentiment of really knowing the importance of self-care has grown over the years. Where I have been teaching for a long time, and I would say 10 years ago, self-care was still a new concept. And we didn't really have the verbiage and you can see that like the more social media posts about it, the more that concept has grown. And I think that's what really called me to make that point and that distinction about, well, when we're educating ourselves and really committing to any sort of personal development practice, that is just as good as, you know, and self-rewarding, as DeRay mentioned, and self-fulfilling as all of that time spent to re-regulate my nervous system or to rest, etc. And I really do believe in the power of bringing our learning and our personal development at the center of our working, right? And you all, I think, are touching on the same thing when you made those connections yourself, even before coming to this session. Yeah. Marcy, did you have anything else to add?
No, I just lowered my hand.
Okay. Awesome. Love this. Okay, well, if you are willing and able to, I invite you to drop into an even deeper practice so that we as a group can start to develop maybe the next step on your learning journey. So it starts here. It starts by just taking a moment to ground yourself and, as best as possible, clear out any other distractions. And as I mentioned earlier, if you do happen to be, you know, on the go while listening to this webinar or not in the capacity to really drop in, totally fine. Still take notes for yourself, prioritize your, you know, present circumstances, of course, and then you can do this later on your own time. Maybe, you know, tonight when you get some quiet time alone. And then that being said, for everyone in the room, you can certainly repeat this practice time and time again and kind of make it part of your weekly, monthly, quarterly check-in, what have you. So the first thing we'll do is, again, ground, clear out distractions. And if it feels comfortable to do so, you can even close your eyes. Because the task at hand is to drop fully in to your center of worthiness. Drop in and gather all your resources, meaning acknowledging who your support system is currently, acknowledging the things you have been doing to support your personal development, and then gather all the parts of you that is strong, that is resourceful, that is confident, and that is committed to your growth. Take a few deep breaths there. And then now the second part of this exercise is to simply ask yourself, what is one thing, maybe the next best thing that you can do this season to develop and educate yourself? Whatever answer arises, I'd like you to simply sit with that and allow yourself to feel and vision what that might be. So when you feel like you've fully got an image or some wisdom about what that might be for yourself, go ahead and jot a few notes down for yourself in your journal. Yeah, thank you for your courage and for stepping forward. Yeah, Vanessa's saying take a training course to learn a new system that can improve work process. I love how specific that was. Yeah, Tia, not just networking with other women and asking for things you need and offering things you can do for others. Remember, knowledge, connections, and information in business is currency. Don't be afraid to earn and spend. Yes, I love that. Oh, I love all the wisdom coming forward. So if you are willing to share the insights that came through, again, you can post it in the chat. If one of you feels called to share with your voice, we can certainly make space for that as well. But more importantly, take some time to jot a few notes down, and then again, maybe make some time to continue this exercise later on. All right. Well, that was the exercise. Easy enough, right? And I think I wouldn't say the challenge, because this is something, again, that has been proven to work for women, is, again, just clearing the distraction and making that time and space to answer these important questions from a place of your self-worth, of your strength, and of your resources, right? Getting you present in that really powerful center is, what allows that wisdom to shine through. Well, I promised you some resources. This may or may not fit into the wisdom that came through, and that's okay. But it's helpful to know that there are plenty of free resources out there for you all, and also for your friends and colleagues. So if you visit our website, learn.procore.com, you'll find loads full of courses. As you would expect from a technology company, you'll find courses and trainings related to our Procore platform. Something that you might not yet know or have discovered yourself are also courses to support your industry knowledge. So that's project management skills, technology skills, maybe even skills related to upskilling, personal development, culture at your business, etc. So that can be found through the construction education sort of bucket. You'll see that down below towards the left of the screenshot on the learn.procore.com site. All of this can be also navigated through our main site. So if you look at the resources tab on procore.com, you'll find your way to the same place. Our industry ed courses are what's the word? Eligible, that's the word, for AIA credits. And we could also research and see if any other continuing ed credits you are looking for might fit. So by all means, just reach out to us if you have questions. And the last thing is that this catalog of resources is growing. So be sure to check in from time to time, or just reach out to someone on the team if you'd like some help, curating your learning experience. One more resource for you. As you can see, the community of women in construction, it's really amazing to see it grow, and really love to continue to see it grow. And one hub that you can engage in and maybe meet other folks. We'd also love to hear, ongoing thoughts and ideas and developments from the information we shared here in our session. So you can join our Women in Construction community. Go ahead and scan that QR code and it'll lead you right to it. And meet other great women in construction and start some conversations there. Wonderful place to connect. And that's all I had for you all. I really just love the wisdom in the room, and open to just answering some open questions or continuing the conversation with whatever might be coming up for you.
Yeah, I'd love to start with Lauren's question. She asked, any tips for a work-life personal development balance? I am 3 years into my career, and when one area of my life gets particularly busy, the other areas tend to fall behind.
Yeah, Lauren, I love that. Thank you for asking. I love the call out to your commitment. First, want to acknowledge that. If I were to look back at my own personal experience, the times that I needed work-life balance, it wasn't even on my brain, right? You get so caught in the work and in the hustle and bustle that it's hard to even acknowledge that that's what you might need. And I think this is really what inspired the education as self-care, because for myself, and if anyone has this kind of overachiever, or I think I saw someone in the chat say like, oh, I'm just hungry for certification courses. I am the same way. And it became a stepping stone to clearing out more distraction out of my life, because then I was able to see, well, who are the teachers that really speak to me and resonate with me? who are kind of hinting towards a better career for myself or better opportunities. And then I started to kind of gravitate towards those teachers and really build my support system in that way. So education or any kind of learning experience allowed me to do something and make the time for that, commit to those class times, commit to, receiving that certificate or what have you. And kind of took me outside of my normal day-to-day hustle and bustle flow. So that, really helped me to disrupt my old habits and also then shift me more into a receptive mindset. Because of course, when I show up to a class, then I sit back a little bit more and say, okay, I'm going to be open and open-minded to whatever new information is presented to me. So that was a big first step. Just going back to like, how do I achieve work-life balance? Something I also want to add, since we have the time, like as a general thing, the mindset shift of worthiness also helps in that I'm able to not see my work as a transaction of hours and output and see my work more along the lines of I'm providing valuable insight and guidance and leadership and expertise. And that shows up when I'm able to actually be in my own self-directed process. So that might mean turning off email distractions so that I could step into a fully creative process while I plan for XYZ. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. Again, something that I think often is just an ongoing practice of figuring that out. And I, after many of you probably don't know my personal story, and I won't go too far down the rabbit hole, but something that I am open about is, yeah, I would hit burnout in construction because it's oftentimes very overwhelming to be on a job site and have the leadership qualities of having the answers to all the questions, but then that attracts every single person with questions, which on a job site could mean 50, hundreds of people knocking on your door every second, right? So I surely like would hit burnout and then would flip my career on its head, take a complete 180. And I share this story with folks because again, there's that retention piece. I wish I could whisper in the ear of younger self and say, hey, there are ways to take a break, to gather your resources, and to still kind of stay on your career path. So I kind of learned the hard way by like turning away and then having to slowly come back. And for better or worse, I think ultimately there were other things at play that led me more into a teaching role and saw that that was really a part of my calling. So, neither here nor there. But all to say, to your question, again, stepping into that sense of worthiness, having confidence in where that flow takes you, and then also just remembering to frame it in the context of your work, that it isn't that exchange of hours so much, that if there is a project that really calls a unique attention from yourself, that you can communicate that and create that space for yourself as much as possible. Yeah.
Do you mind going back to the QR code? I think a few people wanted to see that again.
Yes, absolutely.
And DeRay, go ahead.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I just wanted to kind of give some like food for thought here, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. But I just remember thinking about the imposter syndrome comment up above. And I think that as women, especially within a male-dominated field, we definitely, at least I won't speak for everyone, but I mean, I definitely felt imposter syndrome, especially because I'm on the support side of construction. I'm not even a project manager, engineer, field engineer. I'm not in the field. So I was like, oh my gosh, why am I here? But something that I've come to learn, and I'm sure some of you guys might know her, but Alona Mayer, I believe that's her name. She's a professional rugby player, and she had an interview where they were like, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? And she was like, I don't. I know I belong here. Like, I worked my butt off to be here. And that has literally changed my entire mindset because she's right. We all work our butts off to be where we are. So, regardless of what gender this field is dominated, and at the end of the day, we're here and we're here for a reason, and you deserve to be here. So, I don't know. I'm just hoping someone needed to hear that, and hopefully that helps. But we all belong here. Every single one of you belong here. So, yeah, that's all.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, DeRay. That's such an important thing. And I love Ashley's double tapping and reminding folks of like another small detail in this mindset shift. She offered male clustered field. And folks who know me will say, I've thrown out male dominated and changed it with a field that is predominantly male. That just happens to be the current circumstances, right? But it's not a label that necessarily dictates that belongingness that DeRay is pointing out. So love that. Excellent.
Janine, Lisa is asking, what are ways to advocate for yourself and resources for professional growth in your company?
Oh, I love that question. And it is tough. I think we can feed that I am not enough mindset by saying, okay, well, I have to work for 40 hours and then personal development happens outside of that. And I was actually kind of thinking about this morning in anticipation of this because I understand that kind of trap of resources are limited. There are expectations from my boss at work, etc. So I don't mean to say this as like, okay, do it and then things will change. It's tough. We have to acknowledge that there are these glass ceilings, that there are these barriers that might be rooted in bias or might just be a function of the job itself and the lack of resources on the job. Yeah. With all of that being said, I think the steps that are in our control and that we can do is about framing and communicating. So if there is, for instance, a course I want to take and it's going to take time out of my day, if I can frame that as and present it to my boss or whomever might be providing the time resources or money resources in a way that shows the benefit of that course to myself and then how I can show up to benefit the company, right? That's, I think, at least opening the conversation far more open versus just presenting the ask with, hey, I'd like to do this, right? So, and again, not to be too prescriptive of like, you should write out a 3-page essay on how this will benefit, but I think approach maybe the question in that way. How can I make the time for it by showing its benefit to not only myself and my contributions to my upskilling, but then take that next step of how does that contribute to the company, to the project, or to the shared goals of what you're working on. So hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. Ashley also has a great question here. I am an engineer with 4+ years of experience, and I have been in positions when I hesitated whether I chose the right career, as if I'm not enough. What do you recommend to overcome burnout?
Yeah. Ashley, well, I relate to that. I am not an engineer by trade. I openly talk about how I, fell into construction, and over the years, I definitely had again that kind of back and forth relationship with construction. Why some things that came up for me that helped me to stick with it is seeing how I was investing in myself all of those early years. So when I, again, put myself at the center of my personal development and saw the worthiness of myself in those, then my work in construction wasn't a throwaway experience, right? I was able to more clearly see what skills did I develop, I like to say all the time that folks working in construction are probably the best project managers. And yet project management shows up in every single industry. So the construction industry gives you a ton of transferable skills, right? Um, and and then that helped me to also establish and get out of that doldrum of maybe where I was stuck in my career in construction. Started to see what unique contributions I was making and where that could fit into the industry. And as I said before, I realized, okay, maybe I don't need to take the traditional project manager route because now the teacher in me has awakened. Because those were now other skills I was developing alongside my career in construction. So, without giving too much of like the play by play on my career, I hope that made sense where me following my interests, really establishing again my sense of worthiness and figuring out what my personal goals were kind of led me back on a more clear trajectory in my as already established career path. So it brought me back to square one. But what I let go of was maybe the questioning or the wondering or maybe any sort of guilt or shame or coulda, woulda, shoulda sort of feelings. And instead I could be present and see how I was building my career again for myself with goals aligned with maybe business goals, but with goals also fully aligned and representative of my values and my personal goals. So I hope I explained that clearly enough. Again, I think it's helpful while some of these questions come up to remember that everything you take away from this session, I encourage you to keep just working through them, maybe share your experience with your mentors and your coaches and your therapists and anyone else, because it's it'll just get easier over time, so to speak.
Dawn in the chat here asking, how do we break in a more mature, diverse pool of women into this field that want to transition out of a different industry? What would be the career path starting out for them?
Oh, that's a great one. I don't think I have like I just want to acknowledge, Dawn, that's like a great question that we all should be asking, right? That's sort of like square one. So thank you for throwing that out there. I think right now a great place to start is sharing stories, and this is where I try to be as open as possible with my story of being in and out of the industry, maybe finding and carving a niche for myself within the industry. I'm certainly trying to do the work from my role in the industry to kind of be the megaphone as to what possibilities there are in construction. I think that is a job for everyone in the industry to really, like, again, get out of the burnout cycle and share with your friends and colleagues who know nothing about your work and share with them your passion, what you're actually doing, the skills it's calling for, how it affects every single person, right? Because that's I think what awakens the passion for the industry and certainly brought me back to construction. Savannah, do we have any others?
I am not seeing any other questions as of now. Some great comments, everyone just kind of echoing each other here, which is awesome. But no questions.
Well, all right. Okay. Hopefully y'all were able to grab this QR code. I'll also leave you with my contact info. So feel free to email me directly, find me on LinkedIn, and just, again, continue growing the community. This was such a treat for me. So I hope you all enjoyed as much as I did. And I love talking about this. Again, I look back at my memories like running jobs, like on the job site very fondly. I think that's what continued to bring me back. And now I'm just excited to be more on the education side to remind folks that, learning is fun and it really does fill you up and give you some solace away from maybe the challenging grind that is our work. So hopefully you can join me in experiencing some of that more educational, personal development side of things.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Savannah.
Yes, thank you so much, Janine, and happy Work Week, everybody. I hope to see you guys on some of our other virtual events tomorrow and Friday.
Awesome.
All right, thank you. Bye.